Hello. Hi, can anyone hear me? Okay. So let's start recording. Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is Jigo Lee, technical support engineer of Solis. And today, our training topic is going to about the zero fading solution of Solis. And here's content. So first we will go through what is a zero fading application, and then we will talk about solid solutions to how to achieve the zero fading function. And then the third part is going to be question and answers. So let's move to the first part, which is zero fading application. Zero fading application. So we know that the solar systems, the solar inverters, are actually a generator that can generate electricity and then export to the grid. But not in all the cases that the grid will allow the export into the grid. So in that case, we need to limit, like dynamically limit the export of your whole system. Try to balance your generation with your load to make sure that there's no power. That is why we call it zero fading. So the Solis zero fading solution is designed for the residential and commercial PV projects in which the grid network doesn't allow the feedback power or only allow limited backfeed power. For example, you have a 5 kilowatt of PV system, but the network only allow you, for example, export 3 kilowatt into the grid. So you can also use this function to limit the backfeed power into as a 3 kilowatt. So with such configuration, customers can still benefit from the solar generation by reducing electricity bill because all your solar generations will go to your load to support your load, which means your load consumption will be lower. The electricity from the grid will be lower, so the electricity bill will be reduced. So why we should use the zero fading function? There are three reasons. The first one is because if you want to export the power into the grid, then you will need the bidirectional energy flow on your local distribution system or local transmission system. So this will have a higher requirements for your local network operator. And so if you want to do this bidirectional energy flow, then the network operator will have a high requirement in terms of the dispatching the power or to predict the power consumption. So it's not always allowed in all the areas. And another reason is that if your local transformer is in a distribution transformer is in full load condition, so the network will not allow you to connect more generators or more PV or wind generations into their system. And in that case, you can also use this zero fading function. And another part is if you haven't got the grid connection license yet, you can also start this generation with this zero fading function, like as a transitional solution. So about the solutions, Solis can provide three zero fading solutions, which is one with CT and the current transformer, one with meter, and one with the EPM device, which is the external device that we call it as export power management. So we will, then the next part we will go through details about the solid solutions. And let me check. Okay. And then, this part is about the Solis solution. So we can divide this solution into two parts. One is the built-in solution, and another is external devices solution. So for the built-in solution, we support the CT and also the meter. And then for the external devices, we have APM devices, which is the APM1 5G, APM3 5G, and APM 5G plus. So let's see the CT solution first. All the single phase inverters we have can do this, can connect to the CT and to achieve the export power management or the zero fading function. And for other single phase inverters or three phase inverters, we can connect to the meter to do the export power management function, or we can also do the load consumption monitoring function, because we have a meter that we can get the necessary data to upload to the system, to the monitoring system, and then we can calculate your load consumption based on that. And then the external devices, the EPM1 5G is designed for the single phase system. So it can achieve both export power control and also the load consumption monitoring. And for the EPM3 5G, it's pretty much the same, but it's designed for the, and the EPM3 5G Plus is a special model that designed for the three-phase system, and it has a built-in power meter inside the box, and also a built-in data logger inside the box. So it combines the control and the monitoring function into one unit. And so next part is going to be details about the built-in solutions. So we use a meter or CT to measure the output of your system at the grid connection point or the load branch circuit, we will mention later. And then to control the inverter to make a balance. So for example, the single CT solution. So we used in the single phase system, and you just need a CT to achieve this function. It's a very cheap solution, and it's for the single phase mini inverter, single phase 2.5 to 6, and also the 5G 7 to 8K. And it will be in the below picture. So you can see our CT and cable and also the connector are already pre-made. So when you got the package, you just need to plug in the connector into the inverter, and then the connection is done. All you need to do is to change the settings on the inverter LCD. It's very easy and plug and play. And another solution is a single phase meter solution, which is a direct insert type meter. It can be used in a single phase system, and you just need a meter and also a communication cable, or we also provide that. And it also supports those three type of single phase inverters. And one thing to mention is that for the single phase inverters, we have different models. One is CT model, one is meter model. So if you ordered a CT model, then you can only use the CT solution. And if you order a meter model, then you can only use the meter solution. Those cannot be mixed up. And then about the three-phase meter solution, we can provide two type of meter. Sorry, one three-phase meter with the external CT, and one three-phase meter with direct insert type. And all those three-phase inverters can support the three-phase meter. For example, the 4G 3 to 20K, and the 5G 25 to 50K, and also the higher 80 to 110K. And then we will talk about details about the single CT solution. Well, the CT you can see here, it's a single CT that can be used to connect it to the grid connection point of the system. And then, so the inverter will acquire the necessary information from the CT, and then it will do the calculation internally, and then to control its own output to balance with the load consumption. And this picture is the bottom view of the single phase inverter. You can see here is a small connection port for the CT connection. And then after you connect to the CT, just plug the connector into the port. And then all you need to do is to go into the inverter LCD and to select the internal EPM set. Then you choose current sensor and you define the current CT sampling ratio, which is 3000. As you can see, the CT is 100 amp and 33 milliamp, which is 3000 of the CT ratio. And then next step is very important, that you need to define the backflow power. And this value means how much power you want to export to the grid. For example, if you want a zero feed-in solution, you just set as 0 watt, then your system will not export any power into the grid. If you have a limited feed-in scenario, then you just need to set the allowed export power. For example, your network you export like 3 kilowatt, then you just need to set this as a 3000 watt. And the fifth step is to turn on the failsafe function. Well, the failsafe here is a protection. So for example, if your CT cable here is somehow disconnected, in this way, the inverter is going to be out of control. So it might have extra export power into the grid. So that we don't want, right? So if you turn this failsafe function on, and then your CT connection is disconnected, and then the inverter will notice that, and then it will just shut down and stop generating to make sure there's no extra backfeed power into the grid. That is a protection to prevent that kind of backfeed power. And then another one is the single phase meter solution, which is a direct insert type. And in the package, we'll receive the meter and also the communication cable. So it's pretty much the same location that you should connect the meter as a CT, because you have CT model and meter model, and you just, for the meter model, you just connect it to this port. And for the meter connection, you have two choices. You can in the grid side, we call meter in grid, which is you connect the meter into the grid connection point of your system. Another solution is you can connect the meter at the load branch circuit, the branch circuit where you connect your load. So two options you can choose, but we would recommend the meter in grid, because if you want to do the load monitoring consumption, the logic is based on the metering grid connection. So we would suggest you use metering grid connection. And another part is, because this is a direct insert type meter, and sometimes you need to cut the wires and then insert one part into the meter and another part out of the meter. So sometimes if you don't want to cut the neutral wire, it's fine. You just need to lead another neutral wire into only one port of the neutral of the meter. And both of these connections are good, are accepted by the meter. And then after this meter connection, then you just need to follow the LCD setting to set the meter in grid or meter in load as you want. So, and then you define the backflow power. You can define as any values you want. And then you turn on this failsafe function, and then the configuration is done. And then we will talk about the three-phase meter. Three-phase meter will have two types. One is a direct insert type. Direct emitter type, we will supply a meter and also a communication cable in the package. And then those three series of models can support this connection because it has this meter port at the bottom. And also for the three-phase system, you have two options. You can connect the meter in the grid connection port, or you can connect the meter into the load branch circuit. And as for the settings, it's pretty much the same as the the single-phase meters settings. So I'll quickly go through. So you just turn the internal EPM set and choose metering grade, and then you set the backflow power and turn on the failsafe function. That's very easy steps to do. And then another is the three-phase meter with external CT. And so in this package, we will supply the meter and also three set of the current transformer and also a communication cable between the meter and the inverter. And it can be connected to the same meter port as the direct insert type meter. And also it can RSC set a correct backflow power. And so previously we talked about the built-in solution with either CT or meter. Those can be done, those we call built-in solution because the control and by the inverter itself. All the control are done by the inverter itself. The meter and the CT only provide the data to the inverter. And now we will talk about the external solution with the external devices. So here, the external device is responsible to acquire the necessary data from the grid connection point and then do the corresponding calculations inside the EPM box. And then it will send the command to the inverters to control those inverters to limit their output power. And this control is done through the RS-45 cable through the inverter Modbus protocol. So there are three types of EPM device. The one is EPM 15G, EPM and EPM 35G plus. And EPM 15G, EPM 35G, they look similar. Single phase system with multiple single phase inverters. It will support up to 10 inverters, and you can connect different models. So it can be either one 3K, one 4K, one 5K. It doesn't matter. You can connect maximum 10 inverters. And as for the EPM 35G, it's designed for the three-phase system and also 10 inverters, and it can also be different models. And as for the EPM 35G plus, well, it's designed for the three-phase system with multiple inverters, and it can support more. So it integrated the monitoring. So first is the EPM 5G solution, EPM 5G solution. Single phase system, as you can see in this diagram. So when you have multiple inverters, single phase inverters connected, you connected the RS-45 cables between each one to create this laser chain connection. And then you input the communication cable into the inverter. That's how you form the control and response circuit. And then the breadboard is to sampling the grid voltage and the used to sampling the current of the grid connection port. So yeah, so EPM15G is suitable for all Solis single-phase inverters. And so about the CT, Solis will not provide the CT as a standard package because customer may have different requirements in terms of the wire, the cable dimensions, or the current flows on the grid connection point. So Solis will not provide the CT as a standard package. So choose their own CT based on their system configuration. That is what we recommend. And then, so when customer choose the CT by themselves, they need to make sure that the CT secondary current. So they should make sure the CT secondary current is 5 amp. And then when you do this configuration, you need to make sure the inverter is set to different slave address, because you need to set to 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, because the EPM needs to know which inverter he is controlling. And then next, it's going to be about the EPM35G. It's for three-phase system, also for multiple inverters. It's pretty much the same as a single-phase inverter, except it's for three-phase system. And for example, you need to create the data chain communication between inverters and then into the EPM device. And then you do the current sampling through 3 CTs on each individual phases. And then you do the grid connection to for the voltage sampling and also the powering of the device. And also the CT should be selected by the customer themselves, and they should use a CT with secondary current of 5 amp. So you can see that actually the bottom view of the EPM35G is exactly the same as the EPM15G. And then another part is the special model, the EPM35G Plus. So this model, you can see this diagram that the EPM device has integrated a meter, a power meter inside, and also a data logger inside. So with this EPM device, you can do both load consumption monitoring, and you can also do the inverter monitoring, because you have the data logger inside the EPM box. So let's look at the bottom view of this device. You have a grid port for the voltage sampling and powering of the EPM device. And then you have 3 CT ports for the current sampling. And the center 3 port is reserved. And there's another 4-pin COM port that is used to upgrade the EPM 3. And then there's another 2-pin communication port that is used to connect the communication with the inverters. And then here you will have a separate RJ45 port used to create the monitoring from the internal data logger. You can just use an Internet cable to connect this port into the router, and then you can do the monitoring function. Or you can use a Wi-Fi signal, because here Wi-Fi is a Wi-Fi antenna that you can broadcast the Wi-Fi signal, and then you can connect to the router as well. So for the monitoring part, you can do either wirelessly or you can do with wire. So actually, so this data logger inside the EPM box is exactly the same as the Wi-Fi box Solis have. So it has the same function. And here, one thing to mention is that because we have a built-in power meter inside the EPM box, so we have to use a neutral, because the meter requires a neutral to do the voltage reference. So neutral is a must for the EPM, should be EPM35G plus. And so it's it's only available for the three-phase like 380 or 400 volt models, not the 480 volt models. And again, we do not provide a city. Customers should choose their own city based on their system configuration. And yeah, so that will be of the uh, introduction of the EPM device. And we prepare some questions in case you want to ask. For example, the first one is, does the zero fitting function fit with the inverter from other manufacturers? So it's no, because Solis zero fitting function requires the communication between either the meter or the EPM device and the inverters. So we need to have the inverter Modbus protocol to control the inverter. So that is why we are not compatible with other inverters. And another question is, if the zero fitting function fails, will the inverter alarm? Well, yes. If you turn on this fail-safe function inside the EPM or inside the inverter, then as we talked earlier, if the communication cables or CT cables are lost, the inverter will stop generating. The inverter will give alarm and stop generating. And another one is, how can we choose the CT for your EPM solution? So for the CT, we just require the signal current as 5 amp, and we don't care about the primary current. Actually, Solis can provide some accessories. So we can provide this certain type of CT for your purchase. For example, the CT of 100 amp to 3000 amp. But other than this CT, if you didn't find the correct CT for your system, then you might buy your own CT from other source. And because many the CT has a hole inside internally, so it may not fit all the cables for your system. We cannot provide all the options for you. You can always buy a CT with 5 amp signal current from other sources. Okay, so here we can go through some questions if you have. Okay. Okay, sorry. What is the types of the control generation program? Well, the controlling of the generation is very fast because once the inverter get the necessary information from EM, then the inverter control is very fast, like in millisecond level. But the main time delay is on the communication between the EPM and the inverter. So that will take like 3 or 5 seconds to control to the necessary point. So it will start to control like immediately, but it will like it will take some time to limit to the actual value that it requires. CT is not provided. So if you buy the EPM 5G or EPM 5G Plus, you will get the device and then some necessary connectors. Only the connectors, but not the CT cable or the CT itself. More than one. Yes, of course. The EPM is can be connected more than one string of inverters. You mean one string of inverters? What do you mean? EPM can be connected to multiple inverters. If you have like 10 or 9 inverters, they can be connected through the communication the data chain of communication, and then the EPM will control them. But the EPM can only control at a at a at a same grid connection point. So each grid connection point, you can only use one EPM device. If your system have multiple grid connection point, then you should use like more than one EPM device. How does one monitor the data of the EPM? Can it be done remotely? So for example, the EPM 5G plus, it has a data log inside. It can the data logger connects to your Wi-Fi signal in your house or in your factory, and then the data will be uploaded to the Solis monitoring system, Solis cloud monitoring system, and then when you have the account and password, you can register those inverters into the system, and then you can get all the data. You can monitor all the data of your system like remotely. Okay, 8K inverters are connected with a 5 long distance served to Ethernet region. EPM, so 80K inverter connected to the EPM 35G model with distance of 300 to 400 meters between the inverter and energy meter. For the EPM 35G, I don't think there is an energy meter in the EPM 35G. But if you are only talking about 80K between the 300 meters between the 80K and the EPM 35G, that will be fine because the RS-485 communication can support up to maximum should be 800 meters. So if you use a two-core twisted shielded cable to do the RS-485 communication between the inverter and the EPM, then you can do up to 800 meters, like theoretically. So in practical, maybe 600 meters is fine. Reverse current to the grid. So the whole zero feeding solution is to prevent the reverse current to the grid. So that is if that is what you call the protection for the reverse current to the grid. And here in Philippines, we usually don't have neutral lines for the residential. So EPM 5G would be. So EPM 5G is okay. EPM 5G doesn't require the neutral. But EPM 5G plus, because it has a meter inside, the meter requires a neutral for the voltage reference. So EPM 5G plus may not be used in Philippines, but the EPM 5G can be used. Yes, the distance between 8 kilowatt and the EPM 35G can be up to 800 meters. So that is the theoretical value. So in practical, maybe 600. And in that case, you need to use the twisted shielded cable to do the RS-485 communication. EPM, whether the EPM can be connected to two or more set of data chain on. So that is no. So one EPM can only accept one set of data chain of the inverters. But I understand if you want to create like more data chains between the inverters, but I think that is not accepted by the EPM because the control seems going to be in a mess if you connected them in parallel to the EPM. So only one data chain. Yes, because the RS-485 communication because the inverter and the EPM 35G is communicating through the RS-485 cable, and the RS-485 cable can support up to like 800 meters. That's why you can go 800 meters. City, the city's direction, the right polarity, I think we define the city's polarity in the diagram. So for example, in this diagram, you see the P1 and P2. You need to make sure the P2 of the city is facing the inverter, and P1 is facing the grid. That is the polarity for the EPM. RJ45 RJ45 pin connection diagram. EPM RJ45 is, for example, this here. That RJ45 cable can be used just a normal internet cable. So you pins to the router. Okay, RS-485 terminal. Okay, sorry, questions. Up to how many meter straight capacitance maintains by full register? I'm not sure if I understand that question. Sorry, either zero export meter. Zero export meter in Solis inverter. That is we call the built-in solution. So you can connect the meter externally. So the function, the control function is built inside the inverter, but you still need a meter, external meter, to measure the grid connection point. RS-485 has interreference issues with power line in the same can transmit through RS1. Yeah, okay. So the communication line should not be placed in the same how to say in the same cable with the power line. So they need to make sure as minimum distance between each other. Otherwise, the communication data will be like interfered by the power lines effect. And so EPM cannot transmit through a wireless model because it still requires the communication cable to do the communication between the EPM and inverter. What should be the slip as EPM? Yeah, so EPM should have slave address of 1, and then it doesn't matter first the inverter's slave address as long as you have the inverters as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like that. Energy auditing. Use your meter to energy auditing. I think, well, yeah, the meter is accurate enough, but if you want to do energy auditing, I think you should consult your network operator, see if they allow this meter. Be maintained between RS-485 and power line. Wireless connection not possible. Well,
10 centimeter is the standard we can follow. 10 centimeter between power line and communication is the standard which is followed in the industry.
Thanks. Yeah, all the necessary connectors will be provided in the package, so you don't need to worry about the connectors. And then about the pin diagrams of the connector, they should be in the user manual of the either the EPM or the inverter manual. And they should be connected to the EPM for data logging purpose. Yes. Well, currently, the current monitoring system do not support the weather station, but in the next generation of genome cloud monitoring system, we will try to support the weather station, and then at that time, then you can do the data chain along with the EPM or the inverter. But currently, weather station is not accepted. So limitation of this solution. Uh, well, limitation of these solutions. Um, I don't see any limitations for those solutions because they can be controlled like very fast and oh, okay. One limitation may be that if you have this function turned on and your load consumption is very low, then your inverter may not start generating or may not generate in a full power condition. Then you will waste some PV energy. But if you have a lot of um, consumption in your house or in your factory, then it will be totally fine. And battery inverter solution topic next time. Okay. Can we do the same when we use hybrid system? PV is generating control the PV penetration, work at low capacity. Well, for the generator, for the generator compatibility, um, we haven't tested the EPM solution with the generator or with any other hybrid system. So I cannot answer this like currently, uh, but uh, but I think the generator will need some like very fast control to make sure there's no backfeed current into the generator. So maybe another third-party controller is more recommended other than the APM device. Is it possible to maintain 100% zero export or else the minimum current will 100% zero or else the minimum current will export? It will achieve like zero export to the grid. So if you set the backflow power as a 0 watt, then it can do the zero export. Out on the text space yeah, can you explain in brief when we use the number of inverters, then how we install the city? When we use the install city and all connections. About the connections, I think you can see in these diagrams. Maybe we can share later. So you can, for example, the EPM we talk about, which is very complex. So you just need to plug into the CDK into the because we supply the CT connector, and then you plug the CT cable into the connector, and then into the CT port of the EPM, and then that is what you do for the CT connection. It's very easy. Okay. Compatible with genset connection. Yeah, so I just said, so we haven't tested with EPM with the genset connection. So maybe the control speed is not fast enough to maintain a zero backfeed into the generator. So you may need a third-party controller to develop this faster control. Applications of EPM system here in Sicily. Yeah, because only some countries or some regions have this requirement because the network do not allow the backfeed into their grid. So not all the market wants this device or need this device. Okay, so if you do not have any other questions, stop here. Okay, so thank you everyone. Cheers. Cheers. Bye.